Kyle Shanahan is here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Coach?
Good, Rich. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing great. What's your first football memory, Kyle?
First football memory would be watching the drive, the Broncos versus Cleveland. I think I was 5 years old. My mom had a party, and usually I would hang out and play football in the backyard, but I actually came in and watched that, and that was when I started going to games from there on out.
Interesting. So Elway was part of your first football memory, but your dad wasn't part of the drive, right, Kyle?
No, he was the coordinator there.
He was the coordinator there.
Yep.
I didn't even man, that is something that I don't even remember that. So what about your first locker room moment when your dad brought you around? What was that like?
If honestly, just thinking off the cusp right now, it would probably be the next year. I remember going to the AFC Championship game, and I was too cold sitting in the stands, so my mom took me down, and I sat in the locker room the entire game, and I watched the fumble, sitting in the locker room by myself, waiting for everyone to come into the locker room after the game. I remember sitting there dancing around the locker room with a bunch of security guards.
A bunch of security guards? You were celebrating the fumble?
Yeah, when Ernest Miner fumbled.
My gosh. So how have the first few weeks of your head coaching tenure been? What have you encountered that perhaps is something you didn't expect or needed to maybe pick up the phone and get some advice on?
Well, I mean, it's all been fun. You know, you come into the office, you're not really sure. You know, you wait for something your whole life to get to that. And I'm so used to just coming in the office, getting my cup of coffee, usually turning the lights off and getting right to the film and watching film and then getting with the coaches and putting a scheme together and stuff. And I realized as a head coach, a lot more stuff comes up. I kept coming into the office every single day trying to do that. And it was about 3 weeks went by, and I realized I haven't even got to the film yet. A lot of other stuff gets thrown at me, and you got to learn how to organize your time so you can deal with all the other things in the building and eventually get to what matters, and that's studying the tape.
Well, what are you watching film of the players that you still have on the roster, of some acquisitions that you've had from other places?
Yeah, when we got here, that's what it started out with. You know, we had to watch our own players forever, and then it went to free agency because free agency came first. So in order to get ready for free agency, you start to do that, but you really start doing that before you go to the combine. We had to study our own team. So we studied our own team for a few weeks. Then we went to all the free agents on the market to compare them to what we already had. And then we went to about a month and a half of studying college guys. And that ended a few weeks ago. And then I went to my typical off season of breaking down all other teams and seeing what other teams did in situations and studying other teams' third downs, other teams' red zones, and then studying our own self, where I go back and I evaluate everything that we did in Atlanta last year as an offense. So you keep trying to stay up on it and keep trying to build a scheme that's ready to adjust. Kyle
Shanahan, 49ers head coach, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. And so is it true that you were the one who reached out to John Lynch and said, hey, are you interested in being a general manager because of the conversations you would have with him, you at the OC with Atlanta and him being a Fox broadcaster covering a lot of Falcons games? Is that really the way this thing materialized?
No, actually, he reached out to me, and I never knew that he was interested. And John and I had somewhat of a relationship just over the years talking. And, it was actually I think it was the day before we played Green Bay in the playoffs. It was a Saturday. He actually texted me early in the week. He's like, hey, give me a call if you got a chance. And I told him I was a little busy. Can I call you at the end of the week? And he said, yeah, it's not a big deal. Call me at the end of the week. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. So I called him on Saturday thinking it wasn't much. And he kind of dropped it on me. And it came out of nowhere. So I really didn't know what to expect. And I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, man, this really surprised me. And I got off the phone and I went downstairs and talked to my wife. She's like, what was that? I was like, John Lynch just said he'd be interested in trying to be a general manager. And she's like, what do you think about that? I'm like, I'm not totally sure. It kind of threw me off, but my feeling right now is that's the best thing I've heard. I'm completely excited. I got to get ready for this game, but after the Green Bay game Sunday night, let's think about that more, and I'm going to give him a call and talk some more about it. But it kind of shocked me because it came out of nowhere, but within a few minutes, it was, I was kind of stressed going through the whole process, trying to get ready for a playoff game and all that, and not really spending much time thinking about the Niners and how that was going to pan out. And then when John told me that, it took a lot of stress off me. I was like, man, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah, and I mean, he's as brilliant as they come, and I just love John Lynch. I'm kind of biased when it comes to him. I've got Kyle Shanahan here from the 49ers on the Rich Eisen show, and while we're on the way back machine, and I know you've got a lot going on, obviously, with your team. How often do you think about the Super Bowl?
I mean, I think about it a lot. I think about every game in my career a lot, to tell you the truth, and especially the biggest one that I've been in. And it's whenever you lose a game that you think you could have won, that's tough. And so there's not many days that go by that I don't think about it. I'm doing all right. I can handle it. But I think about that a lot.
Is there one play that you would say that you wish you dialed something up differently, or would have been able to give?
Yeah, there's no doubt. The 2nd and 10 that we got sacked on, I wish I dialed something up differently. Then the next play, we called it was actually F choice to Sanu. We got right back in field goal range, but we had a holding play, holding call in the play. So then it knocked us out some more. And there was incompletion on the next one. So it's not just that. I go through every single play in the game, but when it comes down to it, the big one was the sack that we had on the 2nd and 10.
Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers joining me here on the Rich Eisen show. And when you went through your due diligence for the draft this year, Kyle, obviously you didn't choose a quarterback until later on with C.J. Beathard. But which of the top first-round quarterbacks did you think, when you're looking through the film, was the most game-ready, ready to start week 1 this year?
It's none of them were just standing out to where it was like, this guy's a slam dunk to start right away. They all had different traits. They all had, all the top guys who went early, you could see why. They all had ability, and they all have a great chance to be very successful in this league. But I didn't think anyone was just a slam dunk ready to put in and play right away. And to be honest with you, rarely do you go through a year where there are guys like that. So it's a real tough position. It's not, I think you look at everyone in the league, and there's probably about 10 to 12 guys that are guys that aren't, or that franchises aren't really trying to replace. And if there's only 10 to 12 guys, that doesn't mean that a franchise guy's coming out every year. And there's always a chance of one, but it's always a gamble. I thought all the guys had ability, but no one's a slam dunk. It takes a lot of work and a lot of talent. You got to make sure you put the right people around them also. And
as you know, you're part of an organization that's turning the page. You're there now, and John Lynch is there now, and you're remaking your roster. So Kaepernick wasn't in play for you, but RG3 is sitting out there, and he's somebody well, Kyle. Is he still a viable quarterback in this league? Best you can say.
Yeah, Robert's got a lot of ability. Robert's got a strong arm. He's obviously got a lot of talent running with his speed. And, you can put an offense together that gives Robert a chance to be successful. And it's, when you look at all these quarterbacks, there's a lot of guys who have the ability to do it, but it's how you're going to put a system together that gives them their best chance to be successful, and how you're going to put guys around them. I always look at our group of quarterbacks and what type of offense I want to put together that I think will give those guys a good chance. And I think when you look at guys like Robert and stuff, I think Robert definitely has ability, and it showed. He's had some success, but you got to make sure that you tailor an offense that fits his skill set. And I look into all of that. I think one thing that's tough when a guy is not your for sure starter, and you need to put in a certain offense to give this guy a chance to be successful. That's tough to do when a guy's not your for sure starter, because it's not just about him. It's about the O-line. It's about the running backs. It's about the receivers. And it's really tough to design an offense for a quarterback when he's competing to be your backup, if it's different than the rest of the people. So I think that's stuff that factors into these guys. It's what kind of system are they going into, and are they going to have to change the offense they're doing right now to allow this guy a chance to make the team, or give this guy a chance to play. Was that part of the issue in D.C.? Is there's Cousins, there's RG3, two different guys, and how do you square that circle? Is that part of the issue in D.C., Kyle? No, that wasn't really the issue at all. I mean, we traded for Robert, and we traded to get those draft picks. We were committed to Robert, so in that first year, we put in an exact system that was we felt gave Robert the best chance to be successful, and I think it did a pretty good job. And, Robert was the man there, and he had that commitment from the organization. And that's why I thought that was his best chance to be successful, because that was a coaching staff and a whole building that was totally committed to tailoring the offense for him that gave him the best chance to look good.
And how does last one for you here, Kyle? What's the offense going to look like in San Francisco? What can you tell 49er fans that are excited to have you come with the systems that you have run in your previous spots to bring it to San Francisco? And who's going to be at the controls?
Oh, right. I mean, right now Brian Hoyer's going to be at the controls, and I'm really excited about Brian. Brian's looked really good here in phase 1 and phase 2 of the off season. He's putting in a lot of work. I got to work with Brian for 1 year when we were in Cleveland together. He can execute an entire offense. He can read a defense. He can hang in that pocket. And he's a guy who's very tough. He doesn't watch the rush. He distributes the ball to whoever should get the ball based off the coverage, and he allows guys to make plays. So I'd like to run a real similar offense to what we did in Atlanta with Brian and with the rest of our guys. But it's never the same. You're always going to adjust your own players and see how that goes. But right now, we start OTAs this Monday. We're going to put in our base system of what we really do every year, and you start to see your players. And as you go through 10 OTA practices and then in a mini camp and then into the off season, as a coaching staff, you're just teaching a basic system, but you start to see what your players are good at, and then it kind of funnels from there. Well,
we got one guy who who he's good at in studio, hour 3. We got Pierre Garcon here. So anything you want me to tell
him? Nice, man. Pierre's in with you?
Yeah, he'll be here in about an hour and a half, Coach.
Pierre's been doing a hell of a job for us. Just tell him that I said to just keep stretching, man. He's getting too swole on us. He just needs to keep stretching.
He's getting too swole, huh? Okay, I like it.
You can never get too swole, but I like to just mess with him for it.
Okay, I can't wait for that. We'll play that for him. Coach, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Hope it's the first of many.
All right, Rich. Thanks, man.
You got it. That's Kyle Shanahan.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app. And I'll be sure to move Week 6 games to Saturday for that wedding you have to go to.